Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
You're welcome. So I think we should just give some few minutes because I think we're just four in the chat room. So let's wait for more people to join. Like in the next 10 minutes, let's see the population.
Hello, sorry, please. As the session started, because I can't hear anything at my end there. Or am I the one missing something?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sadiq. The session will commence in the next 5 minutes, so we're waiting for more participants to join the call. Okay. So we have 2 more minutes to start. So just 2 more minutes. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. Okay, thank you very much. I would like to start with. Okay, first is that are we sure? Can you all hear me clearly? So I think I would like to start with that. So once you can hear me clearly, then we'll move next.
Yes, we are hearing you.
I can hear you.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for that. And I sincerely thank everyone for becoming part of this session today. So we'll start now. Okay, so I welcome everybody to today's session, where we'll be looking at project execution, running the project. So over the past few weeks, we've started the project lifecycle series, where we look at the planning, the initiation, and every other stage, because we have to define what project management is, then what are the planning requirements, how do you manage a project? So now in today's series, we'll be looking at project execution. So in simple terms, I'll say, how do you start a project? Or what do you need to start a project? So the person facilitating that for us will be Abdulahi, Olaniyi. So I'm the one speaking. So and today's date is 18th of June, 2020. Okay, so our objective for today's training is that at the end of this training, we all are going to understand and appreciate what project execution is, because we're just going to do a brief introduction of project execution. Then also, we're also going to look at quality management and continuous improvement. So you might ask yourself that, how does this relate to the project execution? So as we move on, you are going to appreciate that. So the next is the data-informed decision-making. So during the course of executing your project, you will need certain form of data. How do you manage those data? How do you know what data you need? And what are the best practices for protecting data? So the fourth thing we're going to learn today is also soft skills. So throughout the life cycle of a project, you are going to require soft skills, but this time around, I'm going to be specific to the soft skills that you need for project execution. So I won't just talk about the entire soft skills, because there are a lot of them, but the ones that relate to project execution. And lastly, we're going to look at closing a project. So how do you close a project? What are the things you need to consider? What are the things you need to do? So these are the 5 key objectives that we want to achieve today. And to start with, regardless of your field, whether you're an engineer, whether you are a teacher, whether you're a business person, or whether you're a digital marketer or a tech person, these 5 things will be required, once you want to execute your project. So, but if you want to be specific, then there's an additional training for that. But this one is a generic objective. It's cut across all professions. So, and if you observe, you will notice that there's something in the middle, like a settings button. So I don't know, can anyone just try to understand this? Because at the center of all these objectives, there is one key skill that is needed. So can anyone try to identify that skill? So I'll just maybe 1 or 2 persons should just say something about that. So just briefly, please. So it's like a question mark. So I'm trying to ask a question that what is the engine that runs these 5 activities? So you can use the comment box, and you can also unmute yourself. So quickly. Are we shy? So can anyone hear me clearly? So I'd just like to know that. Okay. So people are commenting in the comment box. Someone said project management skills. Another comment, time management. Okay. Thank you very much for those contributions. The key skill that is required, that serves as an engine for your project execution, is the communication skills. It's the communication, because when you are starting your project, you need to communicate. In performing quality management, you need to communicate. when making decision, you communicate. Soft skills, the center of all soft skills, like the number one ranking in soft skill is communication. And if you want to close a project, you also need to communicate. So communication skill is the engine that runs the entire project execution stage. So I hope we understand that. Okay, thank you for those contributions. Okay, so next now is I draw up a picture with a stats, and it's kind of little game that we all play when we're young. So I don't know, can anybody just try to tell us what he or she understands from this picture? So we can just do that quickly. Okay, let me check the comment box.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Okay, so when I look at this, I think I can see that there's a starting point and there's also a finish point. And yeah, there's a beginning and there's an end to this game. And it actually just makes me remember that in a project, there's always a timeline. That you have the beginning of a project and the end of a project. So there's a timeline to every project. And in this particular game, there is the beginning, like for every project, there's always a beginning and an end. And for this game, there's a beginning and an end. That's the only thing that's one of the things I can depict from it. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Okay, so someone says start to finish. Okay, all right. So project is a process. Okay, all right. Thank you very much, everyone, for our comments and for for our ideas. So it basically, Sister Faidat has said that. So for every project, there's a start and there's an end. But if you don't start, the project will just be static. You just be looking at it. So, but for you to execute your project, you need to start. Just like starting a car. Once you do the fueling, you check every other thing that needs to be checked. If you don't start the car is just going to remain there. So it means that in project execution, the key in executing a project is just to start. But in starting, you will have done all the planning, the reviews, the meetings, and every other thing that needs to be done. So that is why we call it a project lifecycle series. So because you will have done the planning and every other thing before coming to execution. Okay, so let's move. Okay, so first on our objective is, so we're going to look at the introduction to project execution. So for this topic, the key objective that we're going to achieve under this topic is tracking and measuring the project progress. What are the risk management process? And how do you communicate issues to your stakeholders? Okay. So now in tracking and measuring project progress, so I just summarize it in 3 things that just need to be taken into consideration, regardless of your field, regardless of whether you are an engineer or you are a doctor or you're an accountant or you're a digital person or a tech person. How do you track your project progress? So one of the first tips is that first, you should always track your project schedule. So, in earlier trainings, we've discussed what project schedule is. It's the document that shows the entire project plan and what you need to achieve. So you need to track your project schedule to be sure that all the tasks and activities are being carried out effectively. So what are the things you need to track? The first is what? Our project schedule. The second is you need to track costs, because cost is very important because it usually impacts the budget of the project. So don't be carried away when the project is moving and you are just carrying out the project and things are going on fine. You need to ask yourself on a regular basis that the schedule, are we meeting up to the timeline? The next is that the costs, hope we are not incurring more than what is required of us so that we won't go over the budget. And finally, you need to track decisions changes, dependencies, and risk to the project, including any agreed upon scope changes. So what does that mean is that you need to track any decision that has been made. If there's any change in the scope of work, maybe, for example, the client that gave you the project says, oh, I don't want color yellow again, so please change it to color blue. You need to take note of that, and you need to keep track of that and ensure that it's being communicated to your team. Okay. So we've understand the three things that are very important that needs to be tracked, which is the project schedule, the project budget, and any key changes or decision that has been made. So you need to take note of those three parts. So the next phase, which is the second phase, is what common tracking tool is available, or what common tracking method can we use to keep track? In the formal system, there's a method called Gantt Charts. So Gantt Charts is a tool that is needed to keep your project on track. So it's actually a document that measures the tasks against the time and every other key information, that who owns the tasks, what are the necessary activities that needs to be done in order to complete the tasks. So, and that's why I said in the formal system, Gantt Chart is being used. But in an informal setting, maybe the project is just, let's say, you got a contract, from a customer. So it's actually not a formal arrangement. It's not whereby you sign agreements, just for example, is please supply me 100 bags of pure water. 100 bags of pure water, you might not need a Gantt chart. In such a scenario, just have to have a proper documentation. You need to have a record. Supply, what are the things I need to do? So just keep proper documentation. But in a formal system, maybe you got a project, maybe to audit a company, if you're an auditor, or you're a consultant, maybe a school needs a proposal. So those kind of projects, they are formal in nature and needs a tracking method that is formal. So a Gantt chart is an example of that. So let me just quickly show us an example of a Gantt chart. So quickly, okay, let me share. So please let me know if you can see it. So someone should just comment that I can see it. I'll just type in the comment box.
I can see it.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much for that. So this is an example of a Gantt chart template. You see, it's carried out the project title, who is the project manager of the job. You can see the company's name, the dates. You can see the tax, the title, the tax owner, who does what, who owns this tax, the start date, the due date, the duration, and the percentage of completion. So you can see with all this, you'll be able to keep track of what is going on the project. So you can see at the initiation stage, you need a Gantt chart, list out the key activities. At the planning stage, you also need the Gantt chart. You can see at the project initiation, that is execution. So you also need the Gantt chart. You can see that. Project performance / monitoring. Some activities are also done in that particular aspect. So you can see that it's done in weeks. So you can see phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4. So that's just like an example of a Gantt chart. So if you have been given a formal project, and you want to keep track, this is a very important tool that you can use to keep track of your project. So let's go back to our slide, so in order not to waste much time. Okay, so we've seen the Gantt charts in real life. We've also seen it in theoretical. So it's always good to show everyone what it looks like in real life. So we won't just talk theory. All right, so the third aspect that we're going to be looking at, when you are given, sorry, hold on. So when you want to track your project, is the project status report. So a project status report gives an overview of all the common elements and summarizes them in a snapshot. So it is an efficient communication to convey the latest status in one place for the team and stakeholders. So what are the contents of a project status report? You need to have a project name, the dates, the summary, the status of the project, what are your key accomplishments, what are those things you've achieved so far, and what are the issues. So this project status reports, it's not for the project manager, it's for the user or the customer. or the client. So the client calls you, oh, Mr. Abdulahi, what's the status of the project? Depending on the type of project, you can remember that if it is a formal project, please prepare a project status report and send to the client, or send it via email, or you can have a meeting on that. But if it is an informal arrangement, maybe like the example I cited earlier, supply 100 bags of pure water. What's the status? Have you started production? You know, you don't need a project status report in such a scenario because the parties involved, they are not, it's not a formal contract or a formal project of nature. So in that scenario, you just need to show them the status reports, maybe through phone calls or SMS or emails. So it's not really compulsory you use a status report. So I think we've been able to achieve three things here, that in tracking our projects, you need to track the schedule, you need to track the project budget, and you need to track any key changes that have been done. And also, a tool for tracking is Gantt Chart, which I showed earlier to us. And a project status report is a report that is sent to the customer or the clients at each stage of the project. Okay. All right, so the next is the risk management, because we mentioned earlier that risk management is also a key area of the project management lifecycle. Sorry, let me just take this out. Okay, so the risk management. So when executing your project, certain risks will come up and you ask yourself, what is a risk? A risk is a what? Is an event or a circumstance, you know, that affects the project's project progress. Let me use that term. So it's affecting the project because this can be anything. You can say economic inflation is a risk, but now let's limit it down to project execution, because everything we're discussing here will be limited to what? Project execution only. So when executing your project, certain risks will come up. What's an example of this risk? For example, maybe the prices of the raw materials you need for your project goes up. You know, it's a risk. Or maybe, for example, a risk might happen that maybe the project manager himself is not feeling well. So it's a risk that nobody planned for it. You know, you didn't know that it will occur. But you need to take notes that the risk management process, how do you manage a risk in executing a project? So one way of managing a risk is what? Identifying the risk. So you can see in this chart that is being displayed to us, we can see that identify is the first step in the risk management process, because you can't start dealing with a risk if you don't identify the risk. For example, you are given a project to supply 100 bags of pure water. So what are the risks involved? Oh, identify the risk. The risk would arise that maybe the truck that you want to use to deliver the pure water bags might go faulty. So you've identified that, oh, this risk might happen. So identifying the risk is the first step. And identifying risk is not done in isolation. It's not just the project manager will just sit down. The risk is this. No, you need to brainstorm with your team, because you work within a team and your team needs to be carried along, because they are the ones that will, you know, analyze and manage the entire risk process for you. So that's the first step, identify the risk. And you can't do it alone. Brainstorm with your team members, whether you are a software consultant, or whether you're an accountant, or whether you're a digital marketer, or you're a construction manager, or regardless of your field, you need to brainstorm with the team that you're working with in identifying risk. So the second step is to analyze your risk. So you need to analyze, after identifying, you need to analyze it using qualitative and quantitative risk analysis. So analyzing the risk in terms of qualitative means what impact would it have on the project, maybe in terms of making decision. Quantitative, from the word quantitative reasoning, we all know quantitative deals with number. So this risk that I'm analyzing, how is it going to affect the numbers? How is it going to affect the cost? So the third step is to prioritize the risk. So there are some risks that you don't need to attend to them now. There are some risks that needs to be attended to after some time. So you need to be able to prioritize to say this risk is actually very important now, and it might affect the budget or the scope of the work. So we call them high priority risk. So this risk that if you don't attend to them now, it might affect the project execution. But there are some low priority risk. They are important, but you don't need to work on them now. So you shift them. So that is why you need to prioritize between the low priority risk and the high priority risk. So the next step is to assign. Now, when engaging in a project, you are not working alone. You need to be able to assign a particular someone to oversee the risk. So that person will have a good knowledge of risk and is going to ensure that he's responsible for identifying and for communicating the risk to the team. So, and also the fifth step in the risk management process is to respond to the risk. So how do you respond to a risk? So many people, maybe when a particular risk happens, like the example I cited earlier, sorry, I'm using informal examples, but it's just to make it clear to us. You want to supply 100 bags of pure water. Now, the car goes faulty. The customer is already at the site waiting for the truck to arrive because he has so many demands at the moment. Now, the car is faulty, the customer is waiting. How do you respond to that? Will you start panicking? No, as a project manager, you don't need to panic because you've already had a plan. Remember, you need to work with your plan. You need to work with your team. So you don't need to panic because panicking is a form of responding to a risk. So in that situation, what you need to do is to go back to your plan and use that plan to mitigate the risk, okay? Because before you deal with the risk, there's also a risk strategy document which you will have done, and you will need to communicate with the owners that during the planning stage, certain risks might arise, and this is what we put in place to mitigate the risk. And there are some risks that there's no solution at that particular moment. All you need to do is you need to inform the clients that you are working on it. You are making all possible best approach to make sure that they get the goods delivered. So you won't say, or you start lying to the customer. No, we're almost there. We are almost there. We'll get there now. No, tell them that this is a particular situation and this is what we are doing, and assure them that they will get the products or the services you want to render at the end of the day. So the last step in the risk management process is monitoring the risk. So you can't just, put in place plans or forces that will fight against your risk if you don't track them. So that is where tracking and monitoring comes in place. You need to be able to track any plan you've put in place. The plan that you've put in place, you need to be able to track them, and you need to be able to monitor them because it's going to help you towards resolving the risk situation. So in summary, identify the risk. Don't do it alone. Get your team on board so that you can brainstorm on it. The second is to analyze the risk. So after analyzing the risk, look at the qualitative and quantitative factors. How it's going to impact your budget, how it's going to impact the decision. The third is to prioritize risk. You don't need to waste your time on low priority risk. Each project has its own unique risk. So that is why I said this training is not a specific kind of training. It's a general, it's cut across all professions, and it's not a detailed training. So we'll just pick on the basics. So prioritize the risk between low priority and high priority. And the next is respond to your risk. You don't have to panic. There's no need for panicking. You respond to a risk by going back to your plan. And going back to that plan, you'll be able to adopt the strategy to the plan. And don't lie to your customer. Don't lie to your clients. Tell them that you are working on it, and efforts are being made to make sure that they get their products delivered. And the last is to monitor your risk, or monitor the risk process itself. So you need to be able to monitor that this plan that we are putting, is it actually resolving risk? Because there are two things. Some people will put plan in place, but those plans are not working. So the plan will just be there. But if you review the risk plan, this thing is not working again. Please, what is the best practice available so that I can leverage on it to properly manage my risk? So those are the 6 steps. So let's move to the next phase. Okay. So the next part, because we mentioned as part of the introduction, is that Communicating issues to stakeholders. So issues will arise during your project. So many issues. We all know what issues are. In your unique endeavors, in your unique professions, in your unique projects, there are certain issues that will come up. And how do you communicate these issues to your stakeholders? Who are stakeholders? Stakeholders are the owner of the project. The project that has been assigned to you, the people that gave it to you, they are the owners. So they're the ones called stakeholders. Because in project management, there are so many terminologies. But in reality, once you understand the simple approach, when you are coming into project management, you just understand the technical words. So, but the basic knowledge you have will help you in understanding the technical words very well. So stakeholders are who? Are the customers, or maybe the person that gave you the job to work on. So communicating issues to customer, like I mentioned earlier, in the case of supplying 100 bags of pure water, it can be a physical meeting, it can be phone calls or email, depending on the kind of project. So, and the best practice to adopt if there's an issue on your project and you need to communicate to your stakeholders, one is maintain a friendly tone. You don't need to be harsh. You don't need to be, what's the problem with this customer? I don't even know what's wrong with them. Their wala is too much. No, they also have their own targets. They also have their own achievements. So the second is state your connection to the project. For example, if you're a project manager on the job and the customer does not know you, tell them who you are. This is who I am. I am Abdulahi, and I'm the project management on this job. And the job is that I want to supply 100 bags of pure water to you. So state your connection, so let them know you, so that, because some customers are very funny, they will just blast you on the phone. Hey, who is talking? Who are you? Can you come? And they like. So you might feel embarrassed, but let them know your importance on the project, that you are part of the team that is delivering their project. You are the manager on the job. So it's going to give you respect based on that. So explain the problem. So you don't need to lie. Tell them this is what the issue is. Explain the consequences. Tell them that this is the consequence. You know that it's going to affect their profit, but you are making plans to make sure that it does not affect it. It will surely affect maybe the customer, but tell them that there are plans in place. So explain the consequences and propose a course of action you can see and make a request. So tell them that this is what you are doing to resolve the issue and ensure follow-up. So you don't just keep quiet like that. Customer is now waiting. You need to call them and let them know that you are on track, you are coming, they will get it. So just be sincere. So I think that's just a summary of how to communicate issues to a stakeholder. So maintain a friendly tone, state your connection to the project, explain the problem, explain the consequences, and propose a course of action and ensure you follow up. Okay, so we're going to look at the next phase, which is the quality management and continuous improvement. So in this session, or in this topic, we're going to look at understanding quality management, what is continuous improvement, and what is retrospective, and its relation to project success. So understanding quality management. So from the word quality, we all know quality. Every one of us will go to the market. I'm sure each and every one of us, we've gone out today to purchase one item or the other, and as customers, as even project teams, we like quality things. So quality management is what? How do you ensure that that's up to standard product is being given to your customer, or up to standard service, best in class service? Let me use that word, best in class. So you want to give them the best solution, you want to give them the best service or the best product. So, and there are 4 concepts you need to look out for if you want to ensure quality in your product or your services. So the first is quality standard. So quality standard provides guidelines that can be used to ensure that a product or a process are achieving the desired outcome. So this standard, if you are an organization, you need to have quality standards. And once you have this standard, you need to document them. And you also need to let your employees or your team on the job, let them be aware. Some companies, they have quality standard framework, but not all their employees knows about it. When the CEO or the project manager is saying, oh, quality, this is what quality means, the team member will say, so we have this document. You can see that there's a gap. So you need to discuss that document, the quality standard plan, or it's like a document that it will spell out what are the guidelines that you need to do. to ensure that your product or service will achieve the desired outcome. So the next step is planning. So for every engagement you want to work on, you have to plan that. What does quality means to this client? Ask yourself that question. You get a job today, whether you're a freelancer or you're a product manager, or you are a tech person, or you're an accountant or an auditor, or a business or a food seller, you sell food in a restaurant. Ask yourself, what does quality mean to my customer, to the client, to the user? So once you are able to define what quality means to them, so you'll be able to plan in line with that. You'll be able to plan in line with that quality of your clients. So you need to plan for that, and it's done at the planning phase. But you also need to take note of that in the execution phase of the project. So quality assurance. So quality assurance is a review process. It's like auditing yourself. It's a review process that evaluates whether the project is moving towards a high quality service or product. So it includes regular audits to confirm that everything is going according to plan. So I will call quality assurance like tracking quality. How do you track quality in a product or in a project? Or you are a food person, you are selling food in a restaurant. How do you track quality? A good example is feedback. Get feedback from your customers that, this product I'm selling, how do you, what value is it adding to you? Why are you coming here every day? It's because they see that you have a good reputation for quality. So that assurance is like audits. So assurance is like asking the customer or asking the client or the person that give you the project that, does this thing meet up to the expectations? Most people don't do that. People will just collect money and do the project, and that's all. So the last is quality control. Sorry, I won't spend much time on this because of time. So quality control involves monitoring project results and delivery to determine that they are meeting the desired result. In simple terms, quality control, quality assurance prevents defects before they occur. So you will have what? You will have done the audits to audit yourself, audit one or two people about your products. So you'll now be able to plan for future, let's say, future sales, or you can say future, maybe sales, let's say sales, yeah. So it's more like auditing yourself, and quality control is you identify the defect after they have happened and also entail that corrective actions to resolve these issues are in place. So quality control is what ensure that, your product or your service that you are giving to your client, maybe as a project manager, is up to standard. And remember that quality management entails 4 things. You need to take note of that. Quality standard. What is your standard of quality? Some companies, if you walk into their companies today, you will see their vision statement or a statement of quality. Okay. So planning, for each job you are taking on, you need to plan, what does quality mean to your client? Quality assurance, audit yourself before the client come and audit you. Because if the client audits you, the outcome might not be good. So audit yourself to say, this product I'm delivering, is it up to standard? So that the client will not complain tomorrow. And quality control is, putting in place processes to be able to monitor that every job we do is on track about delivering quality. So please, I'll just take a few seconds. I just want to plug my laptop, please.
Please do.
Okay, so please kindly confirm if you can hear me so I can continue. Okay, somebody.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. Somebody raised his hand. Because of time, I think you can note your question, because I don't know if you want to ask a question, but because of time, we just have 1 hour left. So if I start taking questions now, it's going to affect the session. So please note your question, and after the session, we'll take those questions. I apologize for that because of time constraint. Okay, so the next is, how do you continue continuous improvements? So continuous improvement is more like, in simple terms, I would say continuous improvement is like education. How do you improve yourself? How do you improve your process? How do you improve what you are doing? Because when you're executing your project, you will learn on the job. So that is why some people, when they take up job today, the company will say, well, we're giving you 2 weeks training or onboarding session, but you will learn on the job, or that's where the real experience comes from. So, and that is what we call continuous improvement. You learn on the job, you make mistake, and you improve in the process. So it is continuous. So you can see that continuous improvement. So in terms of project execution, so as a project manager, having a team and you have to work on a project, so you need to have a mindset for continuous improvement, because it's part of those things that when you're executing your project, so many things will happen. But if you have this mindset, it's going to help you, regardless of your field, like I said, whether you're a tech person or any field you are. So these philosophies are behavior first. Your behavior is very important. Some people they have bad behaviors. Fine, you might be excellent in terms of maybe skills or knowledge. You can undertake the job. But I mean, your behavior, these are things that, you can't hide it. It will surely reflect. If an issues happen, behavior within the team and behavior with the client. So please, it needs to be regulated. Yeah. So the next is small incremental changes. So, changes will happen in your projects, but you need to have it in mind that incremental changes are changes, that happens in bits, and you need to be able to address them as you work on your projects. So the next is experiment, experiment, and experiment. So experiment, experiment, experiment. What does it mean is that what, it's more like, practicing. You're practicing, practicing, practicing. A good example is if you are a project manager in theory, and you want to become a project manager in reality. Let me use that term. What do I mean? Project manager in theory, you've read all the terms, you know everything offhand, but in reality, you want to take up a job, you want to work on a project. Don't use your client's project to experiment. Don't let it be your first attempt. So you will have done some experimentation, as part of, volunteering. That is where volunteering comes in. You will have volunteered in the past, maybe to work on a particular project. You will have seen your weaknesses. So experiment. So the experimentation will have been done in the past, before you will have taken up that project. So that you will not deliver substandard product or service to your customer. So experiment, experiment, experiment. While you are learning project management, it's always important that we experiment. And as a project manager executing, you have to be able to experiment, try new things, because you are more experienced now, not when you want to start as a fresh project manager. So mistake teaches, yeah. So you learn from mistakes. So once you have that mindset that, oh, there's a mistake, it has taught you something, and next time it will repeat itself. Others teaches. There are some other factors that will also teach you while you're executing your project, maybe the client's behavior or so many things is going to affect. So learning organization. So this framework that I'm presenting to you is encompassive. It applies to organization and it applies to individual projects. So learning organization is that the organization has to have a learning culture to say, oh, there's a learning culture, like everybody is being encouraged to learn. So same applies to your project execution. Let your team know that, you will learn on the job, you will learn, you make mistake, but have that, let me say, coaching ability as a project manager. So you need to be able to teach your team members. So that's where learning comes in place. So share learning widely, yes. So do not hold information as a project manager. Every information, Oga is not around. When the team member wants to work on something, let's call Oga, everything, call Oga, call Oga, call Oga, let's call Oga. No, once you've exhibited a learning culture within the team or within your organization, so sharing learning is going to be improved. So your team might be able to take up some responsibility and to be able to understand some circumstance, even if the project manager is not around, and they will work effectively and they will communicate that to your project and to the manager. So, but if you're holding information, I mean, nobody will know, and even yourself will be disturbed because of course. So celebrate learning, yes. So celebrate learning and measured improvement, yes. So you need to be able to measure any kind of improvement you've done, regardless of your work. So there are some principles, promises and guidelines. So delight customers. So this one is just like an example actually. But the most important things are the philosophies, the mindset for continuous improvement as a project manager that wants to start a job. You need to be able to embrace them. You learn, you experiment. Behavior is very important. You share knowledge, celebrate learning, celebrate winnings, and mistake will always teach you. Nobody is an island of knowledge. Even while making this presentation, I've made some mistake, which some people have identified. We are all learning. So this is continuous improvement in practice. Okay, so the next is using retrospective for project success. So I cited like an example because retrospective is actually a technical term in project management. Because when you're executing your project, as soon as you are done, there are some things that will happen. But I started the scenario here that, have you ever looked back on an event in your life and wished that it went differently? Well, we can't help you go back in time, but there are things that you can do to ensure that you don't experience that same mistake again. So that is retrospective in practice. So I've not defined it, but I just told you that when you go back, you can't think something happened to you in your life. All of us have had one issues or the other, or something that happened to us in our life, outside of project management, personal life. But when you go back and look at what are those things I need to do so that this thing will not repeat itself again, that is retrospective. So retrospective also applies to projects as well. So I defined it here to say retrospective is a workshop or meeting that gives the project team time to reflect on a project. So retrospective is also known as rituals, and it happens throughout the life cycle of a project, but most are implemented after major milestone or after the project is completed. So I'm sure we understand retrospective in practice and retrospective in reality now and in theory. So retrospective is a workshop or a meeting. A good example is you are working on a project and the project involves two stages. Stage one is like the pure example I cited. Sorry for using that example, So just to make it clear to us, you want to deliver 100 bags. You've done 50 bags successfully. It remains 50 bags, okay? So retrospective is after the first 50 bags that you deliver to the customer, you sit down and realize what went wrong, what happened. Because retrospective is like a learning point, and it occurs in a project when something is being achieved or when you complete the project. So retrospective is that, what do we learn? What are those things that went well when we are executing this project? What are those things that we need to improve on? And where do we got lucky? Because I can tell you, having a plan doesn't mean that things will go according to that plan. You might be lucky sometimes and things will just work out. So you need to be able to have those sessions within your team to say what went well, what are those things that needs to be improved, and what got lucky. So a good example is maybe you did a training, or maybe you supplied. A good example is the bank. All of us go to the bank. I'm not sure the bank are doing it anymore, because when you get to the bank and you use their service, there's a machine that says, get their feedback. How was our service? What went wrong? What did you like about our service? So when GT Bank is now making decisions, or maybe at the end of the day, they will review those feedbacks to say, oh, this is what we didn't do well. Oh, they said you were too harsh. The people at the teller machine, they are too harsh. Oh, the people, no. So you'll be able to reflect and improve. So that's just it. So the next session under project execution is data-informed decision making. We mentioned earlier that it's want to achieve 5 things. So we've achieved the first thing. So I'm not sure. Let me just take us back. So we've done the first one, which is introduction, continuous improvement. Now we are in data-informed decision making. So data-informed decision. So what do we need to achieve? Data needs for project management, what is data privacy, and how do you manage data? How do you present and visualize a data? Because while you're executing your project, data, okay, someone says GT Bank still use it, especially when security helps to resolve an issue. Thank you very much, Stalawal Amina, for that contribution. Yeah, so it's very important. So data-informed decision-making. So data is very important for project management, even while you're executing your projects. So what is data? Data are raw facts. When we all went to school, they'll tell us that data is a raw fact or figure, or data is an unprocessed information. I'm sure we all remember that definition. All of us will be thinking ahead, what is data? Data is a raw fact and figure. Data is an unprocessed information. Yes, so even in project management, you need data to execute effectively. So I cited some example. I just want us to understand it in real life. So there are different kinds of services you can offer if you are a project manager or in project management. So project management is not limited to construction. It's not limited to, they say we should come and execute a road. We should come and repair the road. No, it's not construction. It's cut across every profession. So in your own profession, you know the kind of data you need to start your project. So a good example I mentioned there is construction project. So for you to construct maybe a road or a building, you need a design plan. It's a data that you need. You need specification. What is the requirement? Because I'm sure, I'm not a construction expert, but I know that there's this document they normally bring out, and they will say, specification, when they measure 10 centimeter here, they won't go beyond that 10 centimeter, because if it goes beyond 10 centimeter, it will affect the whole plan. So I'm sure the construction crews in the house will be able to relate. So machinery, what tools are we going to need? What employees? So these are all data that are needed. Software, user requirements. I'm very sure of this, because you can't just sit down and be developing software that is not in line with your customer. So a good example, let me give you a good example is, do we all know Cowrywise? So Cowrywise is a savings platform. So disclaimer, I'm not promoting any brand, so I'm just giving an example. So you are called upon by Cowrywise to come and develop a software for them. You are a software engineer. So now you got the job, yes, you start. So before you start, there's some data that you need to have in place before you execute. Is what are the user requirements? What does Cowrywise want? You document those things. And what's the system requirement? Because for every user requirement, there's a requirement on the system that would, I think they know how they, the software guys know how they link everything together, maybe Python, Tableau and everything. So like the whole point is try to understand the data that you need to execute your project. So business development, maybe you want to win a job. You want to win a job for your company. You need some data. You can't just go out, wear your suit and tie and enter into a bank and say, we have a technology that will help you, this and that and that. That will know. You need to be able to do a customer profile, customer problem. So customer problem is a data. And let me tell you that the problem is actually money. So customer problem is actually data to some company, because they turn that data into actionable insights that they will use to make decision or use it to win business. So customer problem is the data. So you need those data. How do you get it? You research online. You get those data and you'll be able to tailor your solutions to the need of your customer or your client. So this time around, business development, maybe their customer, but they need you to convince them that you are the best person for the job. So that is where you need to have this kind of data. Beyond just telling them that I can do this, I can do that. No, you need to be able to tap into their problem and say, this is your problem and this is our solution. And we're giving you a guarantee that you won't get a negative return on your investment with us as a company or as a project team. So research projects, all of us, when we're in school, don't research projects. Maybe the medical guys, they will need specimen, they will need test responses. Some people say they want to go and test, go to the lab. So these are all data. So for the business people, they will need models. So they will need documents. Some people will go and fill questionnaire. So questionnaire is actually not a data. So, questionnaire is actually a tool for getting data. So, but the responses is the data. Yeah, so please take note of that. So community development, so just a quick one. You want to do a community development project, you need some data, population size. Yes, you can't just enter a community and go and put the ball there. You don't even know the problem of the community. You don't know what they need. You don't know what they need. So you'll have done some things before you execute. So you need to know the population size. You need to know their religious belief. Very important, because cultural attitudes and age group. There's some culture that don't accept, they'll say they don't like this kind of things. So you need to take note of all that. So sales projects, you need to know your customer buying pattern. So these are data. You need to be able to know your customer needs and market reports. You can get all these things online, or you can pay for it. So as part of the project execution. Email marketing project. You got a job, 1 million naira, to come and do some email marketing campaign for a company. Before you accept the job, or you've accepted the job, before you execute, you've done all the plan and everything, do you have the data that you need? The names, the email, the phone number, maybe the address of those you want to send email to. Because some people are very funny. They will just accept job and they don't even know what they need to start. It shows that there's a problem. So you need to be able to have those data. Business acquisition, yes. So if you want to acquire a company, you need to know the assets of the company you want to acquire, or what are the processes and policies in that company. Is it going to favor me if I buy this company? Because we used to see that companies used to buy each other. So in accounting, I won't go into accounting deep, but let me just use that. So it's called merger and acquisition. So I won't take us technical. So it's just buying another company, or two companies join together. That's called merging. So before you undertake such a project, because you need to be able to consider all those things, and their data, and you get them from the company. So your farming project, yes. So you got a farming project. So before you start digging the ground and start putting seed, you need to know the rainfall pattern. You need to know the soil of that location. So these are all data that you need to execute effectively. So service-related projects. So all other categories, whether you are a service person, you sell food, you do all kind of service that is not products. Let's say services. So services. So your data is the people, the equipment and the knowledge. So these are data that you need to use to execute your project effectively. So the next concept while executing your project is data privacy. So I'm sure if we are researching the internet very well, data privacy is a very, very serious issue in the 21st century. In this, you have some companies that this is what they do for a living, data privacy. I won't start mentioning companies. You can research online. So data privacy, that is what they do for a living, because they try to protect your data. You can see that it is very important at that level. Now, project management level. As a project manager, it is your responsibility to protect the data you've collected. In the process of executing your project, you will have collected certain information. There are some people that, let me give a good example. Maybe you are an auditor of a company. While auditing the books of, let's say, GT Bank. Sorry, I'm not promoting GT Bank. I'm just citing an example. Okay, so let's say GT Bank, you're auditing GT Bank. So you have access to so many information about GT Bank that are not made public. Remember, data are two types. There are some data that you can find them online. There's some data that you can't find them online, no matter what you do. So those kind of data are unique to the customer or unique to that company. So as a manager on that job, as a project manager executing that project, you need to be able to keep those data very well. So, and how do you do that? Is that you need to increase your data privacy awareness. Make sure that every person on your team, the vendor, the stakeholders, is aware of your organization data security and privacy protocols. Yes. So remember that we gave two types of projects. The formal project is, let's say you got a job. You are a financial consultant, or you are a software engineer. You got a job with, let's say, GT Bank. So you need to let GT Bank know that this job you are giving me, I'm going to protect all your data. Your data is not going to be leaked. So that alone can get you the job. You might have thousands of vendors, thousands of software engineering companies. They come around and they said, we'll do this job, we'll know everything. But you, when you are presenting your proposal, you just told them that, in line with our organization or strategic data privacy policy, we place high emphasis on your data by ensuring that it's not getting leaked to the public or to the wrong hands. And we maintain the quality. You just use all those terminology, all those English. You Google your clients, to win jobs. So you tell them that data is very important. And yeah, with that alone, you can win a job, with data security and privacy protocols. So you need to let them know that you have those policies for data privacy. So if you're a company, if you're a CEO, and we are in this meeting together, or you're a business person, you need to have that policy to say, for every job I want to take, tell your team members that this information must not leak. A good example is Twitter. We'll just go down, we'll be seeing so many private information about companies. So that means there's no data privacy awareness. So you can see that it's a critical issue at that level. Now, project management level, tell your team members that this data must not get leaked. Don't use customer data for personal use, for personal use. So use security tools. Yes, as a project manager on the job, security tools are very important. Spend money on quality tools. So don't just use anyhow tools. You need to have, let's say you are using an hard drive to get your customer information. Maybe you are working on a project. So password that hard drive, because anybody can get the hard drive and access the information in it. So a good example is maybe you're a software engineer and you want to work on a customer project. So after getting so many data, their name, their requirements, and everything, so you need to password that data that you're using. Or you need to password the tool that you're using to collect those data so that it won't get to the wrong hands. So, and there are so many tools, we all know them. We can use offline tools and we have online tools. Online tools are the ones that are stored in the cloud. Those ones are kind of expensive. And there are some offline tools that are also good. A good example is maybe you're using a flash drive to collect information. A good example is the location where you are working. Maybe it's an open space. You need to lock that place. So that's a security tool as well. Like, that padlock that we usually use to lock our shops and to lock our restaurants or to lock our businesses when we close for the day. That same padlock, use it to lock that location where your customer data is, so that it won't get to the wrong hands. So they won't sue you as a project manager, because so many projects have been sued because of project data privacy. So the last one is anonymizing data. So what does anonymizing data mean? It means that if you are working on a project, try to don't make it visible to others. Don't make it visible. Try to use some code. You can use some code to change some things. Maybe, for example, you are working on customer data. Maybe some password. Maybe they are working on resolving a customer complaint, and you have all their names and their password to maybe their Gmail account or their bank account. So you have all those documents with you now, so that it won't get to the wrong hands. So what anonymizing means is that you try to, you don't make it visible. Maybe you can add a code to those passwords. Just put some number, the number, maybe 1. Just put 1 in front or 1 in the last. So anybody saying this will say that, I tried this password, it didn't even work. You've anonymized that data. You've tried to make it different from the original one, but you yourself, you understand what you changed. So I hope we get that. I hope you understand that. So overall, data privacy is very important as a project manager. You need to let your team know. It's an awareness. Let them know. Let your customer know that you keep their information very well. Use security tools. Spend money on good tools. Don't just put customer data anyhow. Phone number, a good example is phone number. Phone number itself, there's some people that, their phone numbers, you can't get it out there. So phone number is a unique thing. Date of birth, bank account details, Gmail password. So these are all kind of example of data that needs to be protected. I'm sure we get that. So we don't have much time. So presenting and visualizing data. So during your project execution stage, you've analyzed those data that you got. You've done some magic to it. You've customized it. So now you want to visualize those data. So what does visualizing mean? Visualizing means that you convert those data into a graphical format, or a graphical format so that your customer can be able to understand it better. A good example is, I'm trying to look for an example. A good example is, let's say, a graphical format. Maybe a company makes revenue on a monthly basis, January to December. They made revenue of, let's say, 2 million in January, 50 million in February, 10 million in March. So instead of putting 10, 20, 50 on the screen, and you are presenting to your customer, or you are presenting to those that gave you project, make it visual. You can use a graph. I will have showed an example, but I have not made it. I didn't make it prepared. I'm sorry for that. So just make a graph. Like, let them see the graph. Okay, see how the graph. Some people, that's what they see. They'll just see graph. Okay, this is how our revenue moved up. Okay. Yeah. So that's what some people want to see and say, we need to do better. Especially executive. There are some customers that you work with. They are busy people. They don't need to see information. You just pack everything, or you want to present to them. You now pack all the information on the screen. You're now presenting. No, just make it unique. Key informations, make it graphical, make it visual. Let them see pictures, because executives, busy customers, they work well with these graphics. All right, so in presenting this data, so because presenting and visualizing is a wide topic, so I just limited it to how can you make an effective presentation? Okay, how can you make an effective presentation? Is that one is that what? Be clear and specific about what you want to get out of the meeting. Okay, you want to have a presentation meeting with your client. You want to tell them that this is what we've done. This is the project. This is so many things. So be clear on what you want to do. What do you want to achieve? The next is what? Ask your manager or stakeholder about your presentation goals. Regardless, like I said, regardless of your field, regardless of your profession, you will present one way or the other. Some profession will not require you to present, but there are some projects that you work on that will allow you to present. Sorry, not profession, projects. There are some projects that will allow you to present at the end of the day. So let your customer know their presentation goals, or what do they want from that presentation. So you go and pass on information to them. So create a delivery plan. Yes, so create a delivery plan. So how do you want to deliver that presentation? Is it virtual? Is it physical? So you need to have a plan. So if it is virtual, you have to plan very well, get a good location and other things. But if it's physical, you need to get a good location that as well. So be mindful of your audience time. Yes, all of us are busy. We have everybody's busy, but be mindful of their time. Yes, be mindful of your customers' time. So propose a course of action and make a request. I think this is a mistake. So propose a course of action and make a request should not be there. That's a mistake. But I mean, develop a strategy for making your presentation memorable. Yes. So be original. You don't have to lie to your customer. You don't have to lie to them about doing your presentation. Like I would say, just present the outcome the way it is, but try to make it memorable. Try to make it, a good one. So we've concluded a data as it relates to project execution. Now I want to look at soft skills. Yes. So I mentioned earlier that soft skills is very wide. Every one of us, if we pick up our phone and type soft skills on google.com, it's going to bring out so many skills. But the most important soft skill that would always take the lead is communication. It's communication. You need to always, because as a project manager, you will communicate throughout the life cycle of your project. When you are planning, you communicate. When you are executing, you communicate. When you are initiating, you communicate. Even when you want to close your project, you communicate. When you've closed your project and you want to go home, you will communicate. Maybe you tell them we are done, we are going home. So at least you also communicated too. So soft skills for effective project closure. So we're just going to talk around communication, project leadership, team management, and influencing. So those are the key soft skills we will look at. So soft skills for effective project execution. So the first one is effective communication. So there's a lot of things to say about communication, but I just limited it to this. We can read more on communication. So create an inclusive environment. Yes. So as a project manager, you have a team that you are working with. Let your environment, let it be a communicative environment. Let people, encourage people to talk. Make the environment friendly in such a way that people will be able to communicate effectively. There's some project managers that when they get into the room, where the team are, everybody will keep quiet. Oga has come, don't say a word. Everybody will now keep quiet from the beginning. When it's close of business, okay, we are done with this. The only time they communicate is, Oga, okay, this is the report. This is what you say I need to do. No. Create an environment that would encourage communication. So the next one is give everybody your full attention. Yes. So if you are communicating as a project manager, give everybody your full attention. Listen to them. Some people, a bad habit is pressing your phone if you are listening to your team. So some people might be pressing their phone and they are listening to their team members. No, it's a very bad communication style. So give them your full attention, because at that point, your ear is listening, but your mind is not there. So full attention means that my ear, my eyes, my mind is present. That's just the simple thing. So set up a communication strategy. Yes, during the planning phase of your project, there's a communication strategy that you'll have done. So what's that communication strategy? Is that how do we want to communicate as a team? Remember that when you are working with a team, you guys will communicate. Some projects might require you to go and create a WhatsApp group. They'll just say ABC construction, ABC construction project, gold supply project. You want to go and supply gold, for the rich people that are supplying gold in this on this call. So you can create a WhatsApp group and say this is the project. So you communicate on that WhatsApp group. Some projects might require you to create WhatsApp. Some might be phone calls, regular phone calls. Some might be text messages, depending on the kind of project. Some might be communication whereby emails, yes. So email is also one form. So there are so many forms of communication, whether it is virtual or use your WhatsApp, a WhatsApp group to communicate. So let there be a strategy so that when problem arises, you'll be able to communicate. Everybody will know that, okay, this is what has happened. There's a change in project too. Everybody's aware. It's not that one person will now call Oga and tell Oga that, Oga, the client said they can't pay 1 million again, that they will pay 700,000 for the project. So it's only you and Oga that know. So, other team members does not know. Depending on the kind of project, there's some project that you don't need to disclose the amount to the team members. There's some project that you need to disclose everything to your team. So let there be communication flow. So use a variety of tools and channels. Yes, we mentioned that it might be WhatsApp, it might be emails, or any form, phone calls. So be empathetic and understand your team. Yes, very important. As a project manager, you need to understand your team, because the same way you deal with Abdulahi, it's not the same way you deal with Ibrahim. Okay, so Ibrahim has his own unique traits and unique behaviors. So you deal with him in line with his behavior. Not bad, please take note of that. But maybe he's somebody that's maybe he's shy, or Abdulahi, maybe Abdulahi is shy and Ibrahim is not shy. So the way you communicate with them is different. For Abdulahi, there's a way you communicate, and for Ibrahim, there's a way you communicate, but you encourage them to communicate, like overall as a team. So a retrospective session should be done. Yes, you can say that if you want to do retrospective, we mentioned retrospective in our earlier presentation that retrospective is a session or a meeting whereby the team and the manager or the client, they all come together and said, these projects that we complete, what went wrong? What did you do right? Where did we commit mistake? So in that session, you are going to communicate, right? Yes. So it's part of effective communication. So that's one of the soft skills. So the second is project leadership. Yeah. So project leadership, you need to be able to resolve conflicts. Yes, among your team. Conflicts will always arise. As long as you have one or two people on the group, as a project manager, people will always fight. But how do you want to resolve conflict amongst them? So that you won't be biased. Motivation, yeah, there's sometimes that everybody will just be tired. Work is not coming today, I don't even know what to do. As a project manager, you need to have some skills that once you understand that people are not working, okay, or it's not that people are not working, but people are dull, like there's no motivation. You can just spice the situation up and say, oh, okay, guys, so we're going to order pizza and Cold Stone now for the entire team member. Hey, everybody just start. The person that is sleeping before does wake up. Hey, yes, our manager, like what did they hear? Pizza and Cold Stone. That's what motivated them to do the job. Some people might be in a company, motivation might be, okay, they've increased our salary by 10%. Hey, everybody will be happy. At that weekend, you see that week, people will work well, people will come ready to work. So after that week, people will return to their normal self. But it's a motivation actually. So removing roadblocks, yes, your team might be encouraging so many issues, maybe with your clients. You need to be able to remove roadblocks from them by helping, by assisting. That is where you come in. Sell the project to the clients. Yes, there's no value in you creating or working on the project from beginning to the end, and the client does not accept it. There's no value. So you are not leading the project effectively. So negotiate a fair and reasonable contract. Yes. So for every project you want to take on as a project manager, you need to be able to define a fee or a price that is reasonable. Don't just take work for the sake of let's just manage it. I understand that there might be some situation whereby you just have to take up that job at that particular time, but make sure that the price is reasonable and the benefits you get from that project should outweigh the cost. It's not that you collected a job of 1 million. All the costs you incurred on that job was 900,000. Profit at the end of the day is 100,000. So that is not a reasonable contract. So those kind of contract, it's not worth taking. Yeah. So like you spent 900,000 and you got 1 million naira from the client. So, and the agreement is that they won't reimburse you for all the costs. So you can imagine. So that's not reasonable. So you don't accept such a contract. So serve the client, yes. So the client first. That should be your philosophy. So meet the schedule, yes. So very important. You see, if you work on a project and you don't meet the timeline, it might be irrelevant because the company or the client might need to take a decision at that particular time. But once the project does not meet the schedule, a good example is, let me use a simple example, a wedding. You are an event planner and they gave you a job to do the cake for the bride and groom. They paid you 100,000 or 200,000 to do a perfect cake. And they told you that the date of the wedding is when? 13th of March, or let's say 19th of June, 2022. Now, you've collected the project, you guys have signed, you understand everything. So now at the end of the day, it is now 19th. Where is the cake person now? Where is the cake person? People are now calling. He's not picking up his call. You see that your project did not meet the schedule. Maybe you arrived late, but maybe you exceeded the next day. You're not telling that, we forgot to, You forgot what? So, part of your responsibility, soft skills required is project leadership. And project leadership is also ensuring that you meet your schedule. Take note of the date, work, be there on time, deliver on time. If there is any issue, remember to communicate early and tell them you are working on this so that they will get the desired output soon. Team management, yes. As a project manager, you don't work in isolation. You don't sit down and say, I'm the alpha and omega. You did the plan, you did everything. Share with your team, even though you come up with the plan. Share with the team and let's get input from your team. Oh, team, I did this and this and this. What do you think we need to do on this side? What's your suggestion for doing it better? So so that's team management. You are carrying your team along. You need to let them know. And education is very important in team. You need to educate them. You need to let them, because you learn on that job. Morale, yes. Like we mentioned earlier, motivation, buying pizza for them, doing situations whereby people are not they're not motivated. So team building activities and celebration, yes, very important. You need to celebrate. Maybe at the end of the project, you achieved a good success and you guys made profits at the end of the day. So part of team management is not just people should work very well. Celebrate success, celebrate that team. Everybody should go out maybe to a beach, or I don't know, depending on your budget. Just go out and just celebrate that moment with the team. Everybody's going to appreciate it. Remember that project that we worked on then? We went to Ikoyi Beach. You see, they might remember the project, but they won't forget the experience that they had after the project, because they've worked long hours and so many things like that. So be transparent with them, collaborate with them, yes. So influencing is also another soft skills that you need for project closure. You need to be able to influence your team, your clients, and any person involved in the project. You need to be able to influence them. How do you influence? Now, establish credibility. Let them know that you are the best person for the job, and prove to them that you are the best person for the job. For example, they gave you let me give you an example of influence. They gave you a job to paint a house. Maybe you're a professional person that does home design. Now, the clients, I'm going to give you influencing in two scenarios, for client and for team. So for the client now, you want to influence the team you want to influence the client to give you that job. So the client is saying, okay, you sure you can do this job, this and that? Okay. So before the client talks, you just bring out a booklet for all the past projects you've done, all the wonderful design, the beautiful design you've done for several customers across, and the feedback you got from them. You just show it to him that, see, these are my past projects and these are the projects I worked on. It was top class, the clients love it, and they are ready to use our service again. So you can see that you've established credibility. They know that, this person knows this thing very well. Because some people don't win jobs because they can't exhibit influencing. For example, in your profession, it might be certification. Maybe as an engineer, you want to collect a job from a client. Tell them that you're a certified engineer. Some clients will hear that and say, wow, we are done. Deal signed. Like, no more story again. There are some jobs like that once you tell them you are certified in so and so thing. So as a project manager, regardless of your field, whatever field you are, try to know that job very well. There's two differences between confidence and competence. So once you're competent and you can display that competence, you'll be able to influence your client. So now, influencing in the team. How do you influence a team? For example, a particular team member maybe does not buy in an idea. Maybe there's an idea that was suggested on the group and you guys want to work on it, but a team member does not buy in that idea. So how do you influence such a team member to buy into that idea? Is that you tell them that the project that you're working on is not for one person. It's for a greater cause. Like, it involves it's for the benefit of all. It's not just one person. So, if we do it that way, tell them the benefits we'll get and tell him the negative impact it will have if we don't go that approach. So I think for a reasonable and for somebody that is, for somebody that has been told the truth and he has seen that, oh yes, this thing is I think is the best because this project is for others, or it's for the clients, and I think it's the best. So the best thing for him is to accept. And if he doesn't accept, it's not a crime. You can't force somebody to, you can't force somebody, you can't influence somebody by force. So it has to be done Like, just do it willingly. So influencing, like, let them know that this is the outcome that will happen, and it will affect all of them. Even he himself might not get paid. Like hearing payments. I mean, what's the purpose of all this stress? Is it not to get paid? I mean, at that point, it might even be influenced and is going to agree to the plan. So I mean, just do it in a respectful way. Don't use force. Don't use power. Don't use authority because you are the manager. You have to do this. I stand by my word. You now eat the table. Bam. Sorry for eating the table. Sorry. Okay, so you now eat the table like this is the final. No, I mean, you can't influence somebody through that way. So I think we understand that now. Communication, project leadership, team management, and influencing. So influencing your clients and your team. In case of your clients, winning the project might be getting certified in a particular area, or let them know the past projects you've worked on. Team management, motivate your team. Hey, celebration, try to motivate them and don't overdo it because some people might get relaxed. Forgot come now. Do not say, let's buy pizza today, pizza tomorrow. And you tell them that you guys will go over budget. So once they hear over budget, they will succumb. They will agree to you. So leadership, so like be a good model, yes. And create an environment that has inclusive communication. Okay, so let's move on. So closing a project. So like we mentioned earlier that we want to achieve 5 things. So let me go back and show us again. So we know that we're on track. So we said introduction to project execution. Like, it's not a comprehensive one, but I mean, it's just an overview of the key things we need to take note. Quality management and continuous improvement, we've done that. Data-informed decision-making, yes. We talk about data privacy. We talk about how to present your data, how to manage client information. What kind of data do you need as a business person? Soft skills, that's what we just completed now. Communication, project leadership, required for executing your project. Remember that soft skills is wide. I just limited it to those 4 areas. The last one is closing the project itself. So that is where we'll look at now. So let's go to that. So we just have, I think we have 20 more minutes. So we can just quickly look at that. So closing a project. So what we want to achieve here is understanding what closing a project means. What are the steps involved for project closure? And I mean, yes, a case study. So like just a single case study. Okay, so remember that this course is not a comprehensive, like a very comprehensive one. For more details, you need to leverage on some materials and some external trainings as well. But this is just to give you an overview of what closing a project means. So I said there's an icon there, I'm sure we can see it. So it says in a restaurant, you walk into a restaurant, you order the meal and you finish the meal. I mean, that doesn't mean your dining experience is over. You have to pay the bills before you leave. That's the same idea with projects. Okay, I walk into a restaurant now and I just ordered chicken and rice and plantain and salad. Everything what's, let's say 3,000 naira or 2,000 naira. Yeah, it's just so you now said that's the end. You just clean your mouth and you left. So I mean, the waiter doesn't look at you that. Is everything all right? Like you need to pay. And back in the days, they'll say you should wash plates. I'm not sure maybe they're washing plates now. You pay nil, else they will beat you. So I mean, so that's the same with project closure. Once you conclude a project, you can't just say that's the end, or you just give the customer the project. That's all. No, there are some things that you need to do. There are some processes you need to take into consideration if you want to close the project effectively. A lot of people are having these issues. A lot of people are having issues with how to close a project. Some people just collect work and that is the end. And they deliver the work and that's the end. No, there are some things you need to take place. So there are 3 criteria that makes up closing a project. First is what? Ensure that all the work is done. All the work is done. You are giving an example. I gave us an example to say you want to deliver. I've been using Pure Water since. Let me use painting. You are a professional home designer and you want to design a home. So now they give you the areas you need to design and everything. So you want to close the project. I mean, you need to do a check across all the house, like the room, the balcony, the sitting room, the parlor. Check that you've painted everywhere, and everywhere is, is being painted. That's an example of somebody that wants to design a building. So ensure that all your work is done. So in simple terms. Next is that what? Ensure that all agreed upon project management processes are executed. Yes. So that is why it's good to have a plan, to have a document, because you always fall back on. You can see that project management life cycle it's cut across, because even if you want to close the project, you need to always go back to the plan. So you now ask yourself that, oh, okay, this is the plan. Did we achieve this? You tick it out, you tick it out, you tick it out. So once you be able to tick it out, then you know that, oh, okay, we've done all the project management processes. And the next one is, finally, you will need formal recognition and agreements that the project is complete by stakeholders. Yes, a lot of people don't do this. They complete the work, they say they've completed everything, but they not have an agreement with the client to say, acknowledge that. A simple acknowledgement is enough for some kind, depending on the kind of project you are working on. So some projects might require you to just say the client to acknowledge, just acknowledge the product, acknowledge the product, and acknowledge the product, or say something about it, and sign this contract. That might be that you've closed the project. So let there be a formal recognition. Let your client know that you guys have completed. So they won't be coming tomorrow and said, hey, guy, you need to do this, you need to do this. I mean, we've closed the project. It's not as if we agree that there will be some other maintenance that will be done after the project. So once your work is done, you've agreed all, you've ensured that all your agreed upon project management processes are executed. And lastly, you need to let your client know that the project is complete. How do you do that? Sign the closing contract. A good example. Some might be just acknowledge the product or acknowledge the service, or give a statement that you agree to the product and you are satisfied with the project outcome and everything, and sign. You guys should have a document. So in case there's anything that happens in the future, you'll be able to relate to that agreement or to that contract. So it's always important. But there are some kind of projects that, I mean, you don't, there might not be need for a contract, but there are some that you just need to have those kind of agreements in place. So it's very important. So now the next is, have you ever heard of a never-ending project or an abandoned project? Share your experience and key lessons learned. Okay. So I'll just want one person, I'll just give you a few minutes just to tell us that maybe you work on a project a particular time, or maybe you know of a project. It might not be you, it might be something you know, or a story you heard that is real, that is real, and the project did not end. The project is just dragging, and at the end of the day, they abandoned the project and everybody's separated. So I just want one person to just share that experience. So just feel free. I'll just give you 3 minutes for that. Yeah. Anybody? We're all learning, please. Let's share our experience. Or should I call names? Should I call names? Nobody's talking. Okay. Should I call names? Don't let me call names. Yeah. But I mean, I'm sure we all have a kind of experience. We've had I think somebody wants to talk. If you want to say something, Alamu Adeshina Abdulahi. Or Aisha Bello, do you have an experience to give us? Yeah, you can share experience. I mean, we just have 3 minutes for that. So I don't want that 3 minutes to waste. So I want to learn from us too. Okay, there's nobody who needs to share experience. Okay, time is going. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you, Mr. Abdul Fattah.
Yes, sir. I think somebody gave us a real life experience that affects all of us. This Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. I remember this project started from time of Jonathan, Goodluck Jonathan. One of the participants actually shared it on the screen, so maybe you didn't see it. That's why I'm re-emphasizing it, and it's a very good example. And that project, I tell you, Buhari has come and is about to go, and I'm not sure they've delivered that project yet.
Wow.
I think that would be a typical example of what we're talking about.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. for presenting it in the group chat, and for also explaining it in real life. Thank you to both participants. Like, I mean, I've also learned something now. Lagos Ibadan Expressway. Like, that project has been dragging, and it happens. It's because of the nature of the environment we find ourselves. It's because of the system in place. And I mentioned something earlier, that behavior is also important in terms of continuous improvement. It might be that the stakeholders, those who are being assigned that job, or those who have the money with them, the money of that project with them, they are not sincere people. And the project managers and the team on the job too, they might be sincere. Such a project is not going to end, because those guys, the stakeholders, they will always make sure that, no, you have to do this, you have to do that. No, they won't release money on time. And I mean, once they don't release money, we all know that to keep track of your progress in executing a project is cost. You can see, let me take us back. So you can see that everything is linking now, because I don't want to be talking from theory. I just want us to see that. So you can see that you need to track your schedule. You need to track your costs. That's the project budget itself. So, I mean, when money is not coming in, it won't progress now. It will just remain where it is. It will remain where it is. I need to track your key decisions and agreed upon scope, and if there's any changes to the project. So you can see that if money is not coming in, it will affect the project. So a good example is that example you cited, which is the Lagos Ibadan Expressway. One of the key things there is that maybe the money is not being reimbursed, it's not being given to the project team itself, or it could be that sorry, I'm just trying to. It could be that they are not releasing money on time, one. And also, it could also mean that maybe the people that are handling the project are not sincere people. They just want to keep dragging the issue. So there are so many factors involved, but let's take note of that. So that's a good example, and that's a key experience. So we've learned lesson from that is that there's some project that before you accept itself, you need to be able to assess those that you want to collect it from. Will they be able to pay at the end of the day? And some other factors that needs to be taken into consideration. Okay, let me give another example. There's a customer, that he has a history. A good example is the loan. If you want to take loan from the bank will go and check your credit history. They'll go and check your history, whether you've defaulted a particular loan, maybe in the past or something. So you now want to take up a loan from that bank to execute your project. Maybe let's say you want to take a loan of 2 million or 1 million. So the bank, after doing the assessment, they might not even give you that money to carry out that project. So you can see that that's one thing that's one checks that they put in place, just to ensure that they carry out a check on those that you can see that if you want to issue a loan, it's actually a project, but now they are checking those customers to be sure that they can pay back. Same applies to you as a project manager that you want to accept a job. You need to be able to assess that these clients will pay. Who are their previous suppliers? Who have they worked with in the past? Ask about that client from them. Maybe they have a history of non-payment, or at the end of the day, they usually fight and they will separate. So you will know all these things upfront. These are data that you use to make your decision whether you accept or reject the project. Yeah, somebody asked a question, so I'll attend to that after now. So I think this is just the last part. So steps involved for effective closure of a project. So how can you ensure that your clients, key stakeholders, are happy with the project closing? Yes. So in closing a project, we've mentioned the things you need to take note of, the work you need to complete. You need to deliver, ensure that you tick all the tasks in your project management plan. You need to ensure that there's a formal recognition and agreement that the project is completed by stakeholders, because if those customers don't agree that it's complete, they will always come back to you. So how can you make them happy? Is that what? Have a short formal closeout that ensure that everybody is clear on the outcome of that particular project. Okay. So how can you make them happy in simple terms is deliver to their expectations. at the end of the day, have I delivered to, so somebody's raising his hand. I'm going to take that question. Okay. Okay. I would like to just quickly complete this now. Sorry for that. Okay, so like have a short closeout that ensures that everybody is clear on the outcome of the project, and hand over your deliverables and put together a proper documentation. Yes, depending on the kind of project you are working on, you need to document, at least document, so write something down. You can't just collect a project and that's the end, At the end of the day, you don't even have a history, because all these things will be used if you want to win another job. You'll be able to tell them that this is what you did. At the end of the day, the client was happy. So you use all these things to win another project. So to make them happy, deliver to their expectation, deliver on time, and don't miss the schedule. Just like the person that collected the project for delivering a cake at a wedding event. So deliver, if possible, a day to the wedding, or in the morning of the wedding, rather. So there are some steps involved for closing out a project. Confirm that all work is done as per the requirements. Yes, very important. So there's a requirement and there's an activity. So those requirements is who from your customer. It's not you, it's what they want. It's not about this one is fine. A good example, they gave you a project to go and paint a mosque color green. You are saying that because you have experience all over the world and you now paint the mosque color brown, that even the mosques in Saudi Arabia and in other places in the world, Cairo, Egypt, and the like, they paint it brown and it's usually fine. But the client is saying green, so you can see that you are not working in line with the requirement. So confirm that you are doing what is required of you. 2, complete procurement closure. Yes, procurement. What procurement means is purchasing, buying. Because when you are working on a project, you buy certain things from certain suppliers. You get to ensure that you've settled all the suppliers. Okay, so don't owe money. Like the Yoruba will say, you've done the project finish, you're not owing money, they're not chasing you up and down. No, I mean, close out all procurement, all the raw materials you purchase, everything you purchase, try to pay on time, try to settle and close out everything. So gain formal acceptance, yes. So this is where you talk with the client. So the client will say, yes, I have accepted. I acknowledge that this project is complete and you delivered up to expectation, full stop. Or a signature to a contract. That alone shows that there's a formal acceptance. So complete final performance reporting. Yes, at the end of the day, analyze the costs you've incurred from the beginning of the project to the end and the money the client is paying. Do your addition, plus and minus, because the essence of projects, let me tell you, is to make profit. So there are some projects that are not profit-oriented. There are some that are profit-oriented. If you want to work for a humanitarian or community kind of, or an NGO kind of project, the purpose is not for profit, but they engage you as a professional to work on a particular task. I mean, do that at the end of the project. Cost is simple. I don't want to give any technical accounting terms here. Revenue minus cost is equals to profit. So you will know how much you have left. Archive records, yes. So there's some client data that you have. I mean, some of this data will be with you. Try to keep them, archive them, keep them in a safe location. Archiving can be, it might be a cloud storage or a physical. Remember that privacy is very important. Once you're archiving, it's not that you're not going to pack customer file into your reception. I mean, that's a bad strategy. Anybody can come there and pick it. So keep it in a safe room where it is locked with your padlock, like the example I gave earlier. Or if it is a cloud storage, password it. Hand off all deliverables. Yes, give all the deliverables. Don't order anything. Don't keep anything. And the client did not ask. No, it is a very bad practice for as a project manager that to keep something that your client needs because they did not ask for it. The client might have forgotten, but I mean, hand it over to them. Everything, deliverables, all the things they ask you to do. And lastly, celebrate success. Yes, I mean, it's very important. At the end of that project, try to celebrate success. It might be like having a get-together or a party or a small party, or encouraging the team, maybe giving them cash. Some projects might involve giving money. Just celebrate the outcome. And I mean, so those are the steps. They are easy. Confirm project is done in line requirements. Complete procurement closure. Gain acceptance. complete financial reporting, performance reporting, archive records, hand over all deliverables, and celebrate success. So I think with all this, you have successfully completed that project. So thank you for being with me throughout the session. So like I said, my name is Abdulahi Olaniyi. So what I do for a living is I'm an accountant, but I won't call myself an accountant because I try to go beyond that accounting scope. I call myself a business consultant. I work with Anderson and I'm a business consultant. So thank you very much. So I would like to end with this quote. Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree and I will spend the first 4 hours sharpening the axe. This quote was said by Abraham Lincoln. Why? Because, so like, what does this mean to us? He gave you a project to chop down a tree, or they gave you 6 hours. So what will you do? Use the first 4 hours to sharpen the axe. The remaining 2 hours you execute. You can see that for you to execute effectively, you need to plan. So while you are sharpening that axe, that is the planning. That is the, everything. So it is that 2 hours that you use to execute. So planning, you will have done everything, but 2 hours, cut, till you close out the project. Thank you very much for coming and for listening from the beginning to the end. I really appreciate our time. Thank you very much. Yes, so I know some of us will have some questions because, okay, I think we have some few minutes. So this session is for question and answer segments. So let me go through the chat box to look at some of the questions he asked. Okay. Okay, so a question has been asked by, how can somebody prevent construction? I know if you have questions. Okay, Mr. Okoye is raising up his hand. I don't know if you want to speak or you want me to read the question that you typed in the comment box. You can unmute yourself. Just let me know your thoughts, please, because of time. Mr. Okoye, Moraina, your hand is raised up.
No. Jazakumullah khairan for the lovely presentation. I really admire that. So my question just goes in construction management. When you want to manage the materials, in case if you want to deliver on time, to the time conscious, the supply of material is something that is very important. And in the beginning of the project, we must have profiled it in the schedule that maybe you need 20 bags of cement from the planning and everything. Okay. But something that I know in the construction industry is that the theft issue is something that's relevant. Even there is even a call that they share international construction theft is even a topic in the construction industry. So I'm not saying that, assuming you have already provided for 20 bags of cement to finish the project, but along the line, maybe they stole it or any other thing. I know that one might be a big risk or something that can make you not to deliver the project on time. So my question is now, is that now a strategy, or how can someone, maybe based on experience, how can someone control that theft issue so that the material you plan for, you're able to achieve it? That's my question.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. So I don't know, I think I would like to, okay, let me just answer that. So the construction industry, we have experts in the house. So my answer, might not be detailed in terms of what are the ins and outs of the construction. But in line with the project management terminologies and the training we just had today, is that theft is a very big issue in terms of what materials that you need to carry out your execute your project. So as part of your project management strategy is at the planning phase. Once you identify, it's a risk. That theft alone is a risk. And remember that when we're taking the training, you need to have a what? A risk management plan. There have to be a plan in place. At the planning phase of your project, you need to have a plan. You need to have a policy. And they have to be, beyond having a policy, you need to attach some form of sanction to that. So the first step in preventing theft at construction site is that what? As a project manager, enforce that, create a policy, a theft prevention policy. So once you create that policy, let them know, communicate it to them. Some people might not know. Some people is their nature. But some people might say, do not urinate here. Some people want to urinate, but once they say that, they will caution themselves. They will pay fine. No. There's a sanction attached to that. So have a policy. Now put some sanction in place to run to run with the policy. So that's one thing. So the second is what? Secure your construction site. So in the site, I know that in the construction site, you have a place whereby you keep raw materials. Maybe there's a raw material room or a store where raw materials are, because I'm sure that those raw materials will not be left open. So secure that place. Try to do, as part of data privacy. You remember the data privacy stuff we did, that in terms of physical protection, try to maybe padlock or ensure that it's not lock and keys, that location where those raw materials are, secure it and ensure that that key does not get to any other person. It might be maybe a particular, maybe the manager and the assistant that will have that key. Any material that will be needed, they will sign, approve, and they will come and request for it. Okay, so secure your construction site by under lock and keys. So another one is secure the equipment. Remember that you are securing the site and securing the raw materials. Those equipment that you are using, try to secure them. Maybe there might be a room or a section of the site whereby you keep materials. So you try to secure that place too as well. So another practice you can also adopt as regards to that is that have a record. Okay, at the beginning of the project, these are all the materials and the equipment that we have, that we bought. As part of your what? Tracking the project progress. You also need to track those materials to be sure that they are working fine. 2 is that they are complete. And 3, let's say they are working fine and they are complete. So from that plan you've done, maybe you've had a stock count at the beginning of your construction. Let's say machine for drilling, 4. Machine for doing this one, for shredding. I don't know the name of it, but 4 or 5, 6. So you have all those counts. Now you are in the middle of the project. Do another inventory count again to be sure that, and have a record of those equipment so that you'll be able to track, oh, we have 4 on site now, but we counted 6 at the beginning of the project. We know that something is wrong. You quickly take action on that. And lastly is that register your equipment. Yes, register every equipment that you'll be using have to have like a unique code to make it different from others, because some of those guys, some of the team they might bring in foreign equipment, maybe from their home, that are not up to standard, and take the one on the site to their homes. So you can see that once you register your equipment, maybe there's a trademark or a label on it that is permanent, that they can't, before they can even move it, when they work hard. So, register your equipment, is also important. Have a detailed record of all your equipment on site, and from time to time, it might not be all the time, so that you won't affect the progress of the project. From time to time, maybe often, try to do some audits of those equipment, compare them with the record you have at the beginning of the project. And secure your construction equipment. Yes, secure them in a lock and key area. And lastly, secure the construction site itself, where you keep your materials. Try to let it be under lock and keys. And the most important one is that let there be a policy. There's a theft prevention policy, and communicate that policy to all the team and everybody involved on the project. So, and put sanctions there. Once anybody commits, there's no pity. He doesn't know. Where were you when we were doing orientation about the project? So make it part of your discussion when you're orientating your team, so that they will know. And anybody that does it, just take action. There's no pity, because if you pity somebody, another person will do it, and may cause commotion. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's the limited knowledge I have as regards the construction company. Okay, all right. So there's also another question. Okay, let me check. So I don't know if anybody also have anybody has some other questions. we can, let's wait for, we have some few minutes to take question and answers at this point. Okay, I think Sister Lawal Aminat wanted to ask a question at the beginning of the session. Or is it Sister Ibrahim Moshood or Lawal Aminat? I think one of you wanted to ask a question. Okay, I'll just guess that we don't have more questions. Okay. Okay. All right. So I think there's no question as regards that. So I don't know. Like, I would just like to get a. So I think in summary, that's the. Okay, I think there's a question here. He said, "Thank you for your time." Okay, yeah, thank you very much for your time as well. You know, it's a really good one. You know, for everybody sacrifice their precious time, you know, to come and learn about project execution and how to execute a project. So, I mean, we've come to the end of the session. We've taken the questions and we've also addressed all key objectives. And I'm sure one of us will learn one or two things. So, just like a form of feedback, I think somebody wants to speak. Okay. Okay, just like a form of feedback, I don't know, you can try to share what you've learned and what you gain. So I'll just take from two people, a male and a female. Just let me know what you learned, what's changed about your perspective, and what you want to improve upon. Yeah. So we have a few minutes for that before we close there. Okay, so I'm sure we all understand that. All right, thank you very much for that. And I really appreciate everybody's time for being here today. So in the absence of no questions or no other suggestions or contributions, we'd like to close the session now with closing dua. Subhanakallah wa hamdik. So just to know that the slide will be shared to us, and also the video recording will be available on the YouTube page of the Institute YouTube channel. All right, thank you very much for your time. Do have a lovely weekend ahead. Assalamu alaikum.